loading data, for cleaning, exploring, manipulating data. So like any other library, and just like what Jane mentioned yesterday, you need to import the library using the import keyword. So in this case, we're going to import pandas as PT. And just a review for yesterday, packages, libraries like pandas generally have a long name, and programmers want to make it easier for themselves, so they rename them, and they give them what we call an alias. And the alias in this case is PT. So instead of referring it to the library as pandas, we refer to it as PT. And anytime you're going to call a method from this library, you just add the PD, the alias of the library, to the function, to the method. So in this case, we want to read the data set. And the data set today, we're going to go to the gapminder _GDP _Europe. So I'm not sure if you have access to it or not. Let me just put a link to that here in the on the chat. Where's my Instagram? Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to download the file, put it on your data directory, and then read the file using the read _CSV. So this is, we covered this yesterday. So I'm just gonna give you a minute as a practice for you to do it and to remember what we did yesterday. And give me a sign when you're done. Thank you, Catherine. How are you doing? Anyone needs help? Remember, you have to give the path. If your file is not stored in the same directory as your Jupyter notebook, you have to give it the entire file, just like me here.
All right, go ahead and give a green check once you have the data read in to your notebook. And Essia, did you specifically want them to start with a new notebook today, or can they?
It's up to them. It's up to them. I would start with a new notebook.
Okay.
It's day two, so. Okay, so while you're finalizing that, and I assume you're all okay. If you're not, please give us a sign. We can take you to a breakout room, or we can help you here on the spot. Okay, now before we once we are this file, the data is going to be stored in a data structure that we call data frame. Here I'm calling it data, so all the content of this file is stored in this data. So this data now is called a data frame. So what is a data frame? A data frame in Python is nothing but a table. I'm sure we're all used to Excel. So a data frame stores data in a tabular format in Python. So here's an example of I don't know why my image is pasted twice here, but a data frame is data stored in multiple columns. So in this case, I have this column called apple, another column called orange, and the column, the data stored in one column has to have the same data type. They all have to be numerical, or they have to all to be strings or Boolean. But a data stored in different columns can be of different data types. So I can have here numerical, and I can have here Boolean. Okay. I can have a third column where I can store characters or strings. Another data type that Python user or that we can use within pandas is what we call a series. A series is just one column. However, a data frame is an ensemble of columns. So you can combine series to create a data frame. Okay. Now, what do we do with this data frame? Let me just delete all of these empty rows. And you should have all of this in your learner code empty. So what do we do with this data frame? We can access the content of one cell. We can access the content of multiple cells, and so we access them for a reason, to apply operations, for examples, like computing the maximum of this entire column or a series, or compute the minimum or standard deviation of the data stored in a data frame. Okay. So let's see how we can access this data. There are two ways of accessing the data there are multiple ways actually, but we're going to talk about two ways. We can access, note here first of all that the columns have names, they have titles, and the rows have indices. We can access the data either using the names of the columns or the rows, or we can access them using their location. For example, this value is stored in location 1, the row number 1, and column number 1. This one is located in row number 2 and column number 2, or column number 1, actually, because Python starts with 0. So let's look at the first option, where we can access the data using their numerical indices. So this is option 1. Option 1. And I'm going to make it a markdown. And I'm going to run it. So you see the, and I'm going to create a new cell where I am going to use the index location to extract the value of a cell. So I'm going to put my data is stored in a data frame called data. And I'm going to use the function called iloc. And I'm going to use the brackets, and I'm going to place the index of the value I would like to display. Okay. Now, before I go here, let me just go up right after the data is, and I want to make a look at how the data, what is the content of the data. So I'm going to use the head function, data.head. So I can display the first few, the first 4 or 5 entries of the data. Of course, you can just type data, and that will display the entire file. But if the file is very long, we want to just check the first few entries or observations. So you can see how the data looks like. The indices of the rows are the name of the countries, and then the columns are basically the years of the GDP. Okay, so that gives you an idea of how the data looks like. Now, I would like to access the data located in row 0, column 0. Okay, so I'm going to just print it. And I'm going to run the cell. So this is the value I get, 1601.056. Okay. Now I can access the same data using the values of the columns. Okay, not the numerical indices, but the names of the columns. So this is going to be option number 2. And I'm going to make it a markdown so things are clear. And now I'm going to print, instead of using the location and using the ilog function, I'm going to use a different function that will allow me to do that. So in this case, I'm going to access the data using the log function now. And because I am, again, brackets, and because the names of the rows and the column are strings, we're going to use the quotes. You can use either single quote or double quote. I'm going to use Albania. That's the first row. And GDP 1952. So for sake of time, I'm just going to copy that. So I'm going to index it by the name of the row and the name of the column. Okay. And I'm going to print it. And by the way, in Python, if you have only one line in a cell, you don't need to use the print function. You can just type the instruction, data.log in this case, and just run it, and the printing and the output will be displayed. But it's best practice to use a print. Any questions? Okay. Now, we can print the entire column. We can print an entire row. So let's see how we can do that. Just going to several cells there. So we can use the colon to print a column or a row. Okay. So let's see how we do that. So I'm going to type a print data .log. I'm going to print an entire one column, but I'm going to print all the rows. So I will play, because I want to print all the rows, I will place the colon in the position of the row, of the I index, followed by the column that you would like to print. Okay, so let's say I'm going to use the same one here. Then this is going to give me the first column, only one column, but all the rows. You can see all the countries there. If, on the other hand, you want to print one single row, say Albania, I can use type of print, data, again, log. And then now I'm going to specify which row I would like to print, Albania in this case. But I want to print all the columns. So think of the colon as a wildcard. It prints everything. And that's what I have. I have all the columns, but the row that corresponds to Albania. And you can see the name Albania there. Right. Now I can print a section of the data frame, a number of rows and a number of columns, but not everything. So I can do that by still using the colon. And here's an example. See. So I want to print the, okay, data.log brackets. And I want to print the range from Italy all the way to Poland. And then just going to copy. The names of the columns are very long, so I'm just going to copy them. Okay. All right. Now, we're going to run this code and see what the output is going to look like. I'm going to close it. Okay, I wanted to make that mistake on purpose. Okay, just a review of yesterday. Remember, Python is case sensitive. So here, because I entered Italy, lowercase, it didn't give me the right output, so I had to correct it. Okay, so that's what I have. I have a section, a set of rows and set of columns from the entire data frame. Okay, now you're going to do some work. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to write code. Let's see here. I'm going to make it a markdown. This is challenge 1. So write an expression, code of course, to find the per capita GDP of Serbia in 2007. All right, I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that.
And Essia, we're also getting a request in the chat to slow down just a bit.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And there's a few people in breakout rooms, so let's give this challenge maybe a good 5 minutes or so people in the breakout rooms can finish and come back.
Sure. Thank you. I know sometimes I have the tendency of going fast, so thank you for your.
Oh, can you enable the share screen?
Hold on. Do you want me to stop sharing?
No, I think in the breakout rooms, they're not able to share their screen.
Robin, can you take care of that?
It says allow all participants
Yeah.
to share screen.
Probably I need to stop sharing for them to be able to share.
Yeah.
Okay, and let me do that.
Can you also make Omotola a co-host while you're?
Sure.
Thanks.
Where is it? Is she in breakout room?
Ben, can I put you in room 2 with a couple other people?
Sure.
Thanks.
Can I ask a quick off-topic question about this CodeMD?
Of course.
Real simple. How do I copy something from my notepad to it? Because every time I do, I get my copy buffer, but not the thing I've clicked copy in the IDE. I'm in Windows.
And you're on the black editing side?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Be quiet. Be quiet.
Can you ask that question again? You're copying to
Okay.
copy empty or from?
I go from the Jupyter notepad,
Mhm.
I highlight it, right mouse click it, and say copy cell.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm doing that as we speak. Now I
Mhm.
go back into plotting of the notepad
Mhm.
and I hit paste here. And what do we get? And now we got it. Okay. Nope, that's not it. That's my old notepad before I started the session. It's not the one I just copied. It's like Jupyter is not putting it on the clipboard.
Right, that's it. Yeah.
That makes me
Try-
wonder
try-
if like you may want to try refreshing the Jupyter notebook, like in your browser to like generate it again. I'm wondering if there may be something odd going on behind the scenes that's preventing the notebook from actually accessing the copy and paste function.
It did it yesterday, the same thing. So okay, I'll live with it. I just wonder what I was doing wrong. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. That's a good question.
And Sanjeet, I will come and find you in the next couple of days. We need to have a talk about all kinds of things.
Love that.
Thanks.
Could we get an example specifically for the head function?
Of course.
Thanks. Yeah, Catherine was asking if we could just add that into the learner notes.
Right. I will. Who's taking care of the learner notes? Is it Robin? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up with where we are right now. I was
it's before
answering something
round
else.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, I will add it right after. Okay. Data.head, say 5. Okay, Catherine, I'm going to go through an example using the head function once everybody's here. And Sanjeet, I added an example in the instructor notes, so you can copy it if you'd like.
Thank you.
It's under option 1.
Okay. Ah, there it is. Thank you.
So, Catherine, you can, I wanted to add it here. Okay. So you can use the head function, data.head, open close parenthesis. If you leave it like that, it will display the first 5 rows of the data frame. If you want to be specific, you want to display the first 2 only. You can include it. Oops, I'm not sharing my screen. Let me see. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
I'm making Omotola co-host. Okay, let me just repeat. So here's the use of the head function. So I can use the name of the data frame dot head open close parenthesis. If I do that, the first 5 observations rows of the data frame will be displayed. If you want to display a different number, say the first 2 rows, you can just include that in the parenthesis. Data.head, open close parenthesis 2 in there. So if you run that, you will see only the first 2 rows. If you want to display the first 20, you can just include the 20 there. So the number of rows that you would like to display, just include it within the parentheses. And there I have the first 20 observations. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it sounds like data head, maybe like a mental model for understanding what that does is it's kind of like the quick preview or feature in Windows and Macintosh operating systems where you can right click on a file and kind of see a little bit of what that file is without actually going to the trouble of opening it and waiting for it to load.
Right, right. You can also look at the end of the file using the tail function.
Ah, okay.
So you can type data.tail. And in this case, if you don't include a number, it will display the last 5 observations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the same thing, you can include any number you want, to say 10 there. And yes.
Sorry, Essia, I just wanted to ask, Yassine has their hand raised.
Oh, Yassine, go ahead.
Hi, now when you say read_CSV, I kind of understand what it does, but when you say index column country, what does it specify? Index_col.
Oh, this one?
Yes. How does it?
This allows you to have the first column displaying the name of the countries. Otherwise, if you don't do that, it will show 0, 1, 2, 3 non-meaningful values other than numbering the rows.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And one advice I give any programmer is if you have a question, say now we're happy to help you if you are by yourself and you don't know what the meaning of one of the entries or one value, just play with the code, eliminate it, don't use it, and see what is the output of that. And then put it back and see what is the output, the result. So that gives you an idea. And this is true for any code that you write.
Okay.
Is everybody back from the breakout room?
Mostly, yes. I would say it's clear to go ahead.
Okay, all right. So let me see the so we have the data, we read the data, and now we're going to focus only on the per capita GDP of Serbia in 2017, right? So here we are given the name of the row in, it's not numerical. So we're going to use the, you have to know which function to use, whether it's iloc or loc. So in this case, we're going to use the data.loc, and then we're going to give it the name Serbia. And then that's the name of the row. And the column name is GDP per cap _ 2007. And of course, it has to be within quotes. And that's the output of that. Again, I can surround with print to get the value. And the output is the same. Any question about this? Okay, please give me a sign if I'm going too fast. Okay, are we ready for another challenge? Of course, I have to. So I'm going to give you code in this case, and I would like you to just run the code, and I want you to tell me whether you get the same output or not. And this is the code. And I hope it is placed on the learners.
It is.
Okay, thank you. So did you get the same output? Did you get different output? So let me run it and let's see what we get. So this is the output of the first print statement. Let me just do this. I'm going to separate them. So this is the output of the first print statement, and this is the output of the second print statement. Do you see a difference? Actually, there's a big difference. The second print statement using the log function produces an extra column and an extra row. Why do you think that is? If you recall yesterday, is not inclusive. Thank you, Kathleen. Because the when you use the index by numerical indices, this is not inclusive. It will print 0 all the way to 2 minus 1. It will print the first column 0 and column 1, but not column 2. The same thing, it will print column 0 and, it will print row 0 and row 1, but not row 2. And it will print column 0 and column 1, but it will not include column 2. That's why you see less columns and less rows when you use the first print statement. So you have to be careful when you use these functions. All right. All right, so let's now go further a little bit further. Now we know how to extract values from a data frame. Let's apply some operations, some comparison to of the data that we have. So let's say we have, we want to extract a subset of data, first of all. We don't want to deal with the entire set of data. So let's go ahead and extract the following data. Let me just make it use comparison to select data based on values. Okay, so this is going to be a markdown. And now we're going to select this data. Okay, so we're going to select a portion of the data. So by now you know how we do this. We're going to select only the rows from Italy to Poland, just like we did earlier, and where the GPT is between 1962 and 1972. Okay, and I'm going to print subset just so you have an idea what we have. And this is the data that we are going to focus on right now. Okay, now can I give you a minute to do this? We already had the code earlier, but now what we're going to do is we're just going to select the values that satisfy a certain condition. Okay, so we're going to select the values from the subset where the value is greater than, say, subset is greater, say, than 1,000 or 10,000. Okay, these are the only values that we're interested in. For example, this value, but we don't care about this value because it's less than 10,000. Okay? So let's see what values we get when we do this. So I'm going to print, just make it clear, print data where values are greater than 10,000. Okay, and let's see what we get. Is this statement clear? So I specify my condition. I'm only interested in the entries in the subset data frame where the values are greater than 10,000. And what I get is an output where the entries are true or false. What this means is the first entry, which is this one, is not greater than 10,000. So that's why I have false. The second entry is false as well, because it's not greater than 10,000. However, the third entry here, 12,790, is greater than 10,000. So I get to true. And that's the explanation of all the other values. How are you doing?
I get confused when some are parenthetical and some are brackets. When does one apply versus the other? Because I keep typing parenthesis instead of bracket in my .locks.
Okay. So when you're trying to extract data based on indices, so you use indices or values, you use brackets. These are function calls. Okay, print is a function. This is a method where you have to specify an index, a value of a column or a row. So in that case, you have to use the brackets.
Is it fair to say that the square brackets are used when in situations where you have to tell Python which ones?
In this case, yes.
Mm-hmm. Not always, it sounds like, but then at least in this situation.
Right.
Okay.
That is correct. But regarding functions, oops, I messed this up. If you are using a built-in function or any function that you will write later on, generally you use the parentheses, where you have to specify the parameters that that function requires. After you did the subset, you're referring to this line here, Eva?
Yes.
Did you get an output before?
Yes.
Okay, did you use the lock function or the lock or iLock?
Lock.
The only way you get this empty brackets if your data, you didn't read your data correctly.
Okay.
Or you're using a different, like a band just now. Are you using data or data _ Europe?
No, I've been using just data.
Okay. That's can anyone take Eva to a breakout room?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. Okay, should we move on or? How many do we have in breakout room? So I know whether
Just one.
just one. Okay, should
Yeah.
we move on then or
I would
Wait.
say okay.
sorry?
I would say yes.
Okay. All right. Now we have this output where the entries are Boolean, 0 or false or true. But generally what we want to see the values rather than false and true. So let's see how we can do that. So I can use these values and access the data, the origin data. So I will see the values. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it a mask, where I'm going to place the condition subset greater than 10,000. I'm not doing anything. I'm just using the same condition, but instead of storing, instead of just, but I'm going to store the output in this data frame that I'm calling mask. And now I'm going to use these values to index into the subset. So I'm going to type subset and then mask inside. So what this is going to do is going to go to the subset data set, which is this one. And it's going to go where, if this is false, it's going to type in NA. NA means that is not, no data is available there. In other words, wherever there's a 2, it will display the data. So let's see what we get. So we have an idea, print, subset mask. And let's, oops, what happened here?
Brackets, not
I think it-
parentheses.
I think it could be just print mask.
There you go. So I indexed it into the subset. I gave it these true false values. And wherever there's a false, the output now is in NA, which means that the value is not greater than 10,000. And wherever there's a true, I will have the value. And now you can do something with the values. You can add them, you can multiply them, you can compute the statistics, you can do anything you want to. How are you doing?
We can also do just print mask, right? So is there any advantage of saying print subset mask?
If you print mask, and I'm gonna do it here for you, just
It did the same exact thing.
you will get your two false. You will get what we got here.
Okay, I see.
But if you index the subset with mask, what that does, it will transform the false into an
I
array
see.
and the true into the actual values.
I see. Thank you so much.
Mhm. We can go further with this. We can type, I'm just gonna copy this one again. So I'm not coming up with any new code. Subset bracket mask. And I can compute certain statistics. So I can use the function describe, which you were introduced to yesterday. And then I can, what I get several statistics, like the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, maximum, and the quartiles. If we had this, if we had mask, we wouldn't be able to do that because we don't have numerical value, we have Boolean.
And the
That's
count is only of the numbers I see. The ones that satisfy that count condition.
because you have only two true here. in
Right.
this.
Okay.
For the first column, you have only two true. The second column, you have three, so the count is three, and here you have three true, so you have three, count of three.
Hey, Essia, could you show what the describe looks like on the full subset data set, not the mask? So like if you're asking it to take means and standard deviations of data that has missing values in it,
Sure.
what
So-
is the result?
So our data is called data, right? This is what we had here at the beginning. Right.
Right, but we're working off of a subset right now, so I want to see if the numbers are the same.
Right. You want me to do for the data, the whole data set. So that's what I'm doing.
No, the subset. So on line 60, you're describing our subset.
Right. You want subset here?
Yeah.
There you go.
Can you scroll up just a smidge? Perfect. Okay, so
Go ahead.
we do get numbers. So it's ignoring. Oh, never mind. It's not that the data was missing to begin with.
No. it's
I
not-
was right, because
Right.
when you look at subset with the mask rows, you see NANs, and for a minute in my head, I thought those were actual missing values,
No.
not this row is not shown or this value is not shown.
It's just another representation of false. But the value for this entry is 8243. Right?
Yeah,
And that's what is used to compute the statistics here.
Yeah.
It's not ignoring them. Yeah. Okay. For the sake of time, I'm going to go just very quickly through the group by. So let me just copy this figure here to explain.
We're not seeing your screen.
No, you see my Jupyter, right?
I'm sorry, that was my fault.
It's okay. Okay, so let me. Okay, so this is another operation that can be used in Pandas. So let's say we have a data set that looks like this. You have ABC, 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 right? So you have the same country, say A is a country. The data is spread all over this data frame, right? And what you want to do is, the objective of this is, you want to collect all the data that is relevant to this country, to A, and you want to collect all the data that is relevant to, that is related to B and to C, okay? And then you want to combine the data and you want to compute, say, the mean or the maximum value or the standard deviation for that specific country. So what you can do is you can split the data that is represented here, and you can group all the data that is relevant to A, all the data relevant to B, and all the data relevant to C. You can combine them, right? Or aggregate each set of data. And then once you combine the data, you can apply a certain function, say again the maximum or the minimum, based on the data that was aggregated or that was collected together. Okay, and this is what we call a group by. This is group, is not group. So we split the data, we apply the function, and then we combine the statistics. So say I computed the maximum here. So the maximum for all the data relevant to A is 15, all the data relevant to B is 30, and all the data relevant to C is 45. Does this make sense? Is this clear?
I'd like to see an example, please, of it running.
We're gonna go through an example, yes. I just wanted to explain this through an image so you have an idea what we're gonna go, or what we're gonna do. Okay, so we have our data, right? So data dot head, again, we just want to remember what our data looks like. And then what we want to do is, we would like to find the data that is greater than the mean. So we're going to take all the values here, and we're going to compute the mean of the values. And then we would like to extract only the values in this data frame that is greater than the mean. Yeah?
Can you please repeat once more?
Okay, so let me. We want, here, we want to display the data that is larger than the mean, than the average. Okay, so this is our example or our challenge. So how do we do this? So there's a method called mean. So we can apply to our data. Data.mean and open close parenthesis. So again, I'm going to take all the data points here, but I'm going to compute, and I'm going to compute the mean of these values. Okay. So the mean of this column is 5661. The mean of this column is 6963, and so on. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 columns. And we would like to print all the values in our data set that is greater than the mean of each column. How am I doing in terms of speed? Am I going too fast still? Thank you, Catherine. Okay. So here, again, I'm printing the data that satisfies this condition, where the values are greater than the mean. So I look at the first column, and you will see true only for the values where the value is greater than this value. So each column will have its own mean. So if I go back to my data, you can see that 1601 is greater than the mean of 5661. So that's why I have a false there.